Tonight, the last of the testimony at the inquest into the death of Myles Sanderson. A forensic psychologist says he showed severe psychopathic traits. Also, an 18-year prison sentence is handed to the man responsible for killing a Mountie in Saskatchewan in 2021. Plus, Saskatchewan officially refuses to collect and pay the carbon tax to Ottawa.
This is CBC Saskatchewan News.
It is Leap Day, Thursday, February 29th, and the CBC Saskatchewan News starts right now. Good evening, and thanks so much for watching. Today marks the final day of testimony related to the James Smith cremation and Weldon massacre that happened about a year and a half ago. Earlier this month, the inquest into the violent stabbings ended with 29 recommendations. Today, after hearing the last of the testimony, 6 jurors deliberated about how killer Myles Sanderson died in police custody. The goal of an inquest, of course, is to prevent something like this from happening again. CBC reporter Dane Patterson joins us live now from Saskatoon. Dane, walk us through what happened today at the inquest.
Well, Sam, we heard from the last 2 witnesses in the inquest over this week. The first being a ER doctor at the Royal University Hospital, who was one of the first doctors to see Myles Sanderson when he came in. Now, he talked about the last moments before he declared him dead at 4:39 p.m. on September 7th. He talked about him flatlining all the way from the area, the scene between Hague and Rosser in Saskatchewan, and using an ultrasound to confirm that his heart still wasn't working. And after that, we heard a more gripping testimony from a forensic psychologist who talked about Sanderson's past and his psychological history, talked about his childhood, which was rife with, as he said, rife with abuse and instability. He also talked about how he used drugs from age 13, and he talked about the severe psychological traits, or rather severe psychopathy traits, that he was a psychopath, and he ranked among the 94th percentile among Canadian inmates across Canada when it came to that. He also talked about how he was mission-oriented in his plans for the killings at James Smith cremation. And then he talked about how that September 4th, his mission wasn't over. And he actually suspected, and he believed that when Myles Sanderson was on the run, before police pit maneuvered him into the ditch and arrested him, he was actually on his way back to Saskatoon to try and finish off the last target, being Vanessa Burns, his former common law partner.
Dane, that's a lot to process for the last witnesses. Now the jurors are deliberating. What do we expect to happen next?
Well, we do expect to hear those recommendations tonight, later this evening. We're hoping to hear from the jurors. The recommendations, as you mentioned, there are 29 in the last inquest. It's unclear how many we'll hear now, but we will hear some of the things as far as when, where, and why Myles Sanderson died. That's the other thing that jurors are looking to provide their findings on. So the recommendations, like I said, are coming back, and if you're looking to hear more from those, you can check on our website at cbc.ca/Sask. Sam?
Dane, thanks so much for this. That's the CBC's Dane Patterson live in Saskatoon tonight. Former Prime Minister Brian Mulroney has died. He was 84. Mulroney's party swept power in 1984 in an election that saw his progressive Conservatives break through the Liberals' Quebec stronghold. He was re-elected in 1988, campaigning on a free trade deal with the United States, and served as Canada's 18th Prime Minister until 1993. Mulroney had been recovering last year from a heart procedure and treatment for prostate cancer. A statement from his daughter says he died peacefully, surrounded by his family. The man responsible for running over and killing a 26-year-old Mountie in Saskatchewan is going to prison. Alphonse Traverse pleaded guilty to manslaughter last year. A Regina judge handed down the sentence this morning. Adam Hunter has the story.
In June of 2021, RCMP Constable Shelby Patton pulled over a suspected stolen truck in Wolseley. The driver, Alphonse Traverse of Winnipeg, drove off as Patton was standing on the truck's running board. Patton was run over and killed. The entire interaction lasted only seconds. Last year, Travers pleaded guilty to manslaughter. In court on Thursday, Court of King's bench Justice Michael Tucker sentenced the man to 18 years. The Crown had asked for a life sentence.
Well, obviously the fact that a police officer was killed in the line of duty is the major and probably predominant aggravating factor in this case. As well, Mr. Travers was somebody with a significant criminal history. So those two things together contributed to calling for a very, very significant penalty for an incident that, as the judge put it, only took seconds.
Patton's family was in court to hear the sentence.
I'm relieved that this part is over. It's not quite what we were asking for, but at the same time, I think the important thing here to focus on is the safety of the police officers who are out there trying to serve and protect us as a community. Our society, if we don't have these people out there protecting us, what do we have left?
Melanie Patton says the family will continue to advocate on behalf of Shelby.
We need more police officers out there. We need 2 to a car. I would love to help see that through to the future and not stop that.
With time served, Travers' 18-year sentence reduces to almost 14 years behind bars.
I think it does send a message. 18 years is a significant sentence. We need to have a deterrent because we need to keep our police officers safe, and we need to make sure that people understand that if they commit these types of crimes, that it's going to be taken very seriously, and the courts are going to hold them accountable.
Justice Tucker addressed the court, the Patton family, and Travers, saying, "I hope all of you can someday, somehow find peace." In 2022, the community of Indian Head dedicated a park to honor the late officer. Adam Hunter, CBC News, Regina.
Sask Energy will not be remitting the carbon tax to the federal government. It's a move that breaks federal emissions law and could result in fines or jail time. The minister responsible for the Crown announced it through social media this morning. He also spoke with David Cochrane on Power and Politics.
This is about fairness. We strongly believe that certainly we know in the province of Saskatchewan, the people of Saskatchewan are supporting their duly elected government, and the duly elected legislature of Saskatchewan unanimously amended the legislation of Sask Energy last fall to essentially allow us to do this. So we're following a mandate that we have from the people of Saskatchewan and by the duly elected legislature of Saskatchewan.
There is an election in your province this year.
Yeah.
You're not running.
That's correct.
Right, but your government is, and so you may bear the burden for this. And Premier Moe may reap the benefit of this politically. I mean, what do you say to people who look at this and say, this is all about an election year? You know, a right-wing party in Saskatchewan hurting you in rural parts of the province, and the New Democrats challenging you in places like Regina and Saskatoon.
Oh, I've been in this party for 18 years. I've been elected for 18 years. I've been in the cabinet for the last 15 years. I can tell you that I'm confident that even if this wasn't an election year, this is the stand that this government would take.
Sask Energy is breaking federal law by choosing not to remit the tax, and that could lead to fines or potential jail time for Duncan, which he says he has retained personal counsel for. Saskatchewan teachers will not be taking part in extracurricular activities province-wide starting next Tuesday. This latest job action will impact things like sports, clubs, grad planning, and school trips for at least 2 days. The Saskatchewan Teachers Federation says disruptions are unfortunate, but teachers are in a, quote, impossible situation. The Education Ministry says it will make funding for class complexity annual, but it won't be in the teacher's contract. The city of Regina wants to revitalize its north central neighborhood. The area has more than its share of problems, and people who live there say they often feel ignored. Now, some young people are trying to help change that with the city. Darla Pones brings us the story.
This sad face spray-painted on a tire sums up everything a group of young people want to change in Regina's north central neighborhood.
Well, I mean, it's kind of like 2 swings and a slide and 4 tires.
I don't know, it never changed within the past 10 years. I remember from it staying the same from when I was like 6 or 5.
We know this is ambitious, but we're tired of the neglect and empty promises that North Central has received. This neglect that has occurred in North Central will take years to repair.
They took their concerns to City Hall this month, but it all began last year when the mayor wanted to hear from young people who had grown up in the neighborhood. She invited them to form an official youth task force called North Central Strong.
We agreed, but at first, I wondered if it would really grow into something.
They're all Scott Collegiate grads, including Jacob Panapanisic on the left and Hope Henderson in the middle.
We've been brainstorming ways to help North Central, and we've been brainstorming what's like wrong with North Central and what needs to change for the better.
They've been learning about leadership here at the Mama Wayatatin Center. They're a part of a nonprofit organization called Growing Young Movers that works with Indigenous teens.
We can't forget that, this is something that's new to them, the fact that they are being heard or people want to know their opinions on things, because that hasn't been their experience of growing up in this community.
They have a lot of ideas, from affordable housing and jobs to cleaning up streets and redeveloping parks.
When you hear that they'll rent cabs to go to a park to have birthdays, that makes you wonder, right? Like, why isn't that something within their communities?
Developing this park, called Parkdale, is their first big project. And the mayor says she'll expect to see them back at council with a proposal.
Attaboy. Attaboy. Thank you. You did outstanding.
Darla Pane, CBC News, Regina.
Every year, there seems to be a new record for drug toxicity deaths. Nearly 500 people died from a confirmed or suspected overdose last year, and that's expected to be worse this year. Pratush Dayal wanted to find out about how the drug crisis is affecting newcomers. Turns out it's not easy to get answers.
Moving to Canada can be stressful, and some newcomers are turning to drug use. They don't want to speak publicly because of stigma. But an international student from Turkey says he turned to drugs just 17 days after moving to Saskatoon. And a Syrian refugee says he uses meth to forget his problems. Both men say they felt alone and had no supports. But just how big of a problem is drug use in newcomer population? It's hard to tell.
But I would say the problem might be bigger than we think.
This university professor did extensive research into this. He found healthcare providers in Regina were reporting a noticeable increase in substance use among immigrants. But Statistics Canada does not collect race-based data when it comes to substance use, and immigration status is not tracked when the police, healthcare workers, or even the coroner deal with drug-related issues. And without this data, some say proper addiction services can't be offered.
But I think we have not got a sense of understanding. Are those addiction services culturally safe to the immigrant populations? And so because we have not wrestled with the perversity or the scope of substance use within the immigrant population, then as a society and as a policymakers, we have not caught up.
About a dozen groups that work with newcomers tell me drug addiction is an issue. They say immigrants face a lot of pressure to be successful in Canada and even to send money home. But many struggle to find jobs.
So that stress, putting them in a position that they use some substance and then they're gone for one or two try, and eventually they get to the position that they cannot come out of it. So those are the couple experiences within our community that we have had in the past.
After we've done this.
This black-led charity can barely keep up with the demand for the culturally savvy counseling. They've seen a surge of substance use among newcomers, especially international students.
We see a lot of international students now going through a lot of mental breakdown. So it's multifaceted for them. It's not just their life here. It's also worrying for their folks in their country of origin. So all of this leads them to a place where they are looking for some haven. Unfortunately, substance is what they kind of like gravitate toward.
The situation is similar at the Punjabi Community Health Services in Calgary. 7 counsellors work at max capacity and had their busiest months ever in October and November last year. They say there's a real gap on the prairies.
We have very large immigrant populations, but then they're heading into agencies where they don't see anybody that looks like them. They don't see anybody that speaks their languages. They don't see anybody that really understands the nuances of their experience, right? And I think that is a really big concern.
And I think we have an opportunity because we have not reached an explosive phase where we now is a huge crisis that's unmanageable, we are still at a tipping point where we can change the direction.
And so while it's hard to get the numbers, experts say the problem is real and will become more pressing as the prairie provinces attract even more newcomers. Pratish Dayal, CBC News, Saskatoon.
The city of Saskatoon has a surplus of almost $10 million this year compared to last. City staff say nearly $6 million of that should go into a reserve for snow and ice clearing. The chief financial officer says the city can't bank on mild winters like this one.
Positive financial results have been already forecasted throughout budget deliberations. And this surplus has minimal impact on the 2024 budget discussions that just occurred. We cannot budget for a future with no snow events or continuation of government funding for pandemic relief.
Less snow clearing and an increase in transit riders is behind much of the surplus, as was higher investment returns because of higher interest rates and the temporary closure of Harry Bailey Aquatic Centre. Oh, that wind was cold today, but it was much warmer than the days we've had earlier this week, especially in Regina. But that nice weather, well, it's brief. It looks like we've got a bit of a snowstorm coming through on the weekend. Tyreek Reed will explain in his forecast after the break. Stay with us.
This weather update is brought to you by Mercedes-Benz Regina, proud member of the Capital Automotive Group.
Welcome back. Our weather specialist, Tyreek Reed, joins me now. I'd like to blow a raspberry in your general direction.
Yeah, Sam, you know, snowstorms definitely do seem to be the theme for this week. That's how we started the week, and it seems like that's continuing because we do have that snowfall warning in effect throughout northern parts of the province. We even have watches for southern areas, like right here in Regina, for a separate system that's going to be moving in on Saturday. But for tonight, with this system moving through the north, we're already seeing that snowfall right now. As we head further into tonight, that'll start to pick up a lot more. We can see some flurries in central parts of the province, but this is mainly going to move through northern areas. That will taper off as we head into Friday afternoon. But as we were just discussing, we do have a separate system moving in on Saturday night, mainly through southern areas of the province, like right here in Regina and over in Saskatoon. This will leave around 10 to 20 centimeters of snow, so you're definitely going to want to get your shovels ready for Sunday morning. As for tonight, as we head into tomorrow morning, our friends in the north will be left with roughly 10 centimeters of snow in some areas, even up to 15 centimeters of snow over in south and down south. We aren't looking at too much snowfall, but in central areas of the province, like in Prince Albert, you will start to pick up a bit of that system tonight, and you can be left with around 2 centimeters of snow or even 5 centimeters in Lloydminster. Now, it was a really warm leap day. You know, we saw that warmth moving through. So in Maple Creek, we saw daytime highs at around 14 degrees. In Estevan, also feeling really warm. We saw daytime high at around 11 degrees today. And that warm temperatures are still sticking with us, as we can see right now. So up in the north, we're seeing temperatures at around minus 19 degrees. Heading further down south, we're seeing temperatures right now in Regina at around minus 2. Same thing for our friends over in Saskatoon. So a very warm day right now to finish off February. We did feel those winds gusting though. So they were gusting up to 50 kilometers an hour throughout much of the province today. That's going to stick with us as we head into Friday as well. But we'll see those winds start to slow down heading into Saturday morning. Now let's take a look at our 7-day forecast. We're going to be starting off our weekend tomorrow in Regina, seeing a daytime high at around minus 3 degrees. But of course, as we head into Saturday and Sunday, we're going to see that snowfall system moving in, seeing around 10 to 20 centimeters once again. And that's going to leave us with some colder air on Monday. So we'll be starting off our week with a daytime high at around minus 19 degrees. And in Saskatoon, a very similar picture. We're going to be starting off our weekend sitting at around minus 9 for a daytime high. And of course, seeing that snowfall moving in on Saturday night and on Sunday as well, leaving roughly 10 to 20 centimeters of snow, leaving behind colder air as we move into Monday to start off the week. But things will start to warm up as we head further into the week. We can see a daytime high at around minus 12 on Thursday. For now, let's try to get through that snowstorm coming.
All right, thanks, Ty.
No problem, Sam.
Stay with us. We've got more news after the break. As the wildfires raged on at extreme levels last summer, a local film crew was on the ground in northern Saskatchewan documenting the behind-the-scenes footage of first responders fighting off major fires. The wildfire season in Saskatchewan last summer was one of the most challenging for first responders in our province. Guardians of the North is a docu-series that looks at the journey of firefighters and First Nation responders in the North. Season 2 is 6 episodes long and follows the crews fighting from the ground, the air, and the water, and shows what happens after a town's evacuated from a wildfire. Avery Laguerre says it was a difficult time for responders to be on scene.
The extreme conditions this year were like nothing that we've seen for a long time. It was a challenge every day with smoke and just hot conditions. The winds were high, and you didn't know what you were going to get from day to day.
The show producer hopes to educate people on the challenges responders face day to day. The show receives funding from Creative Saskatchewan's feature film and TV production grant. According to the province, the $280,000 investment in the second season is estimated to have a $1.2 million positive impact in the economy for Saskatchewan. Guardians of the North Season 2 premieres March 5th on City TV. And Tyreek has one last look at your weather.
Thank you, Sam. So heading into tonight, we'll still be seeing lows above 0 tonight in Regina. Heading into tomorrow morning, we'll still feel that warmth. We'll be sitting at around -3. And heading into tomorrow afternoon, around the same temperatures, we'll be sitting at around -4 with a wind chill of -11. In Saskatoon, also sitting above 0 tonight with a chance of rain from that system that's moving through the north. As we head into tomorrow morning, we'll see a bit cooler temperatures rolling through, sitting at around -9, and heading into tomorrow afternoon in Saskatoon, temperatures will remain relatively the same. We'll see highs at around -10 with wind chills of -19. Sam?
All right, thank you.
No problem.
And before we leave you tonight on this bonus day, leap year babies are celebrating across the world and right here in Saskatchewan. After waiting 4 years for February 29th to roll around, they can finally say it's their big day.
Hi, everybody. My name's Tristan DeRoche, and today is my birthday. I'm a leap year baby, so I turned 7, but also 28. And I'm also a fiddle instructor in northern Manitoba, so I'm in my classroom right now and I'm going to play Happy Birthday all the way from Lynn Lake, Manitoba. My little sister was born on the 28th, so we kind of celebrate the same birthday. But then every 4 years there is the 29th, so I'll celebrate it on the 29th. But typically I go for the 28th, and yeah, my mom has a funny story of when she was in labor. My grandpa kept saying, tell her to wait until after midnight, so he's a leap year baby. So I think I was born just after midnight, so I just made the mark.
Well, happy birthday to Tristan and all the leap year babies. That is it for us tonight. For news anytime, you can head to cbc.ca/Sask. You can subscribe to the CBC Saskatchewan YouTube channel or download the CBC News app. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great night and stay warm.